first combination from the pattern is from Chun-Ji. We'll begin with the right lunge punch, turn 180 degrees into the right downward block. The thing to look at when we start to examine the patterns is the footwork. Remember, Chun-Ji is the most basic of the Taekwondo patterns. So many people who have done this pattern over the years start to think, wouldn't it be easier just to turn the other way? The lesson to be learned is in the footwork. This, as the most basic of the striking patterns, sets up the footwork for the most basic of grappling patterns. When Steve comes in, we use the footwork to set up your basic shoulder throw, one of the more basic throws of grappling. Grab. Your lunge punch becomes the grabbing arm. Step in. Here comes your 180-degree turn to load up. And then when you step forward, there is your throwing technique. So, from the beginning, grab, step, load, throw, finish into this stance. Dangun. Dangun pattern follows the Chun-Ji pattern. From this pattern, we're taking the right high punch and the turn into the left square block. What this will show the progression from the 180-degree turn into the 270-degree turn. This is important because it helps to teach the practitioner that leverage becomes more important than strength when it comes to throwing. When Steve comes in, use your lunge punch as a lapel grab, just like we did before. Grab, grab. What the turn does, by turning that amount of movement, it allows you to take your opponent off balance and get them in a position to where their weight is off the ground and you can throw them. So, grab the lapel, use the momentum of the turn to set up the throw. In the third example, we will look at the Dosan pattern, specifically the twin reverse inner forearm block, front kick, lunge punch, reverse punch combination. This is a common combination in a lot of striking arts, and what it does is it really allows, as an instructor, for you to show the students the importance of a kick rechamber. In this case, the rechambering technique actually acts as a sweeping technique. And Steve comes in. He's going to attack, grabbing attack lapel, it could be a choke, either one. Use your twin inner forearm block combined with your hip action to give yourself the space that you need. Do your front kick past the attacker and then rechamber it to sweep him down to the ground. Then use your punches, 1, to stabilize him onto the ground, 2, to drive across the throat. If there's no gi on, use it as a choking technique, much like the twin high punch. The next combination will be from the Wanyo pattern. We'll use the initial square block, knife hand block, lunge punch combination to set up a basic arm throwing technique. This isn't involved, or it doesn't involve as much of the hip action as your judo throwing techniques do that we covered in Chun-Ji and Dangun. But for this one, it is more of a joint locking technique that results in a takedown. Steve comes in, starts a rear wrist attack, step away, and use your hips to help clear over your head into your square block. From here, use your knife hand to pull off balance, and then step into your lunge punch for the takedown. What you're doing is using the elbow as a lever to cause the throw to occur. So, one more time. In one smooth motion, turn, knife hand, lock. The next combination comes from the Yoguk pattern. It is right hooking palm, left hooking palm, right lunge punch. At the intermediate level, what this combination teaches is the use of the hips for the creation of power. When Steve comes in, use a typical lapel grab for this. Use your hips to move him off balance. Load the hips, Bring the arm across, turn with the hips. Don't force with the arm, turn with the hips to pull him off balance. Come back the other way once you control the arm to break down the posture more. Once this is here, use the hand lunge punch as a lapel grab, then utilize your push-pull action, pull at the shoulder, push at the lapel as you step into the takedown technique. The Jung Gun pattern. This one acts as a continuation of the yoga pattern from before in utilizing the hips for your power. We're going to combine the pressing palm with the turn and the hook punch. Steve comes in. We'll use the pressing palm as an attacking technique or a defending technique. He steps in, grab the wrist, use the pressing palm just above, closer to the shoulder, above the elbow. Lift as you keep this flat. You know the technique works or is effective when your partner rises up on their heels, on their toes. So from here, use the push-pull motion to pull this to the hip. Use your hook punch as a clothesline technique to pull him in while tripping with the foot. Now, for our Taekwondo purposes, do the same thing and use your Taekwondo techniques to finish it. Pressing palm off balancing technique, pull, trip, pivot, round kick. This combination from the Taige pattern utilizes the mountain block, left downward block combination. One of the things with Taige is often asked is what are the use of all of these mountain blocks, the series of mountain blocks forward and back. Mountain blocks are best used, can be best used as a joint locking technique because of their push-pull nature. Steve grabs as a lapel grab. Use one side of the mountain block to trap the hand. Use the other side of the mountain block to lock the shoulder so that the elbow in the middle is locked firm. From here, use that mountain block and the twisting of your hips to pull him forward. Then use your downward block to take him off balance the other direction. So from here, grab in one sweeping motion, turn, step, and down. In Hwarang, you'll notice that some of the seemingly static striking techniques, like the overhand knife hand to lunge punch to downward block, can be combined into one fluid grappling technique. Attacks with a wrist grab, combine the hip swing, knife hand to lunge punch as one technique. Grab onto the lapel, step to the low block, sweep the leg, and go down into a takedown. For the Chung Mu application, we're going to combine the knife hand square block, stepping forward into the knife hand high block, inward knife hand combination. The way this one works is with a twin wrist grab, step back to pull the attacker off balance and use your knife hand square block to lift his arm. See the hip action that occurs as I go into the square block. From here, pull the left arm into your next high block as I step forward with the knife hand, and you effectively lock the elbow joint and the shoulder joint. From here, you keep stepping forward into your front stance, and you can take your attacker down and control it. In the Kwange pattern, we combine the push-pull action of the arms with a forward and backward stepping motion. We have the hooking block with the right arm, stepping back into the low double knife hand block. What that allows us to do is to have a greater hip action for increased power on the takedown. Steve attacks with a lapel grab. We step to the side, off the line of attack, and use the hooking block to control the side of the arm. Turn into it, reach across the opponent, your attacker, and grab the lapel. Step back into your double knife hand block, dropping to the ground. Note here that you do have control of the opponent by the neck and by the arm. The pull-on pattern allows you to gain skill in controlling an opponent without moving your feet. For example, when Steve comes here and attacks with a wrist grab, using the hips, pulling the attacker in, using the hips, pulling the attacker over, using the hips, controlling the attacker, all while utilizing the hip action. Gaybeck pattern has one of the hand techniques that's not often used in a striking context, and that's the arcane strike. However, the arcane does have a very good grappling application. Steve attacks with a wrist grab. If we combine the high block, low block, arcane combination from the pattern, we can see that it can be used very easily in a circular motion as a way to control the attacker.